presence, Miss Habiba Kahinde. How are you doing today?
Hi, I'm fine. Thank you. Thanks. Really nice to see you guys again.
So without much ado, I want to welcome Camilla Nontra.
Yay!
Oh my goodness. I should come to you every day when I need.
Correct. This is Sudan.
Wow.
Sudan. Believe it or not, Sudan has more pyramids than Egypt.
Interesting.
Begin to think in a pan-African way, because they now see that their conditions are not just about that local space, but the condition is linked to all of the other.
Hello. How is everyone doing this morning? Good morning from California. Good afternoon if you live all the way where my partner lives.
Yes.
On the East Coast, North Carolina. Well, good evening if you live from where our guest lives. It's good evening. We have a special show for you today. I want to start by thanking God. By Him we live, we move, and have our being. And we have a special guest today. Someone I've been following for a while now, almost a year now, following her channel. Her channel is Ivy Prosper, Stories from Africa and the African Diaspora. She was part of the team that planned the Year of Return in Ghana. And she's also the part of the team that with Beyond the Return. And she's a very, very fun-loving person. And without much ado, I want to welcome to the Pan-Africanist show, Miss Ivy Prosper.
Yay! How are you doing?
Like I didn't have my headphones
Okay.
in.
We got to run the celebration back. Let's do it one more time, Fred. Let's celebrate.
Looks like I'm having a
yeah,
connectivity issue.
Oh, okay. So to everybody that's okay, can you hear us now? Ivy.
Looks like it might be a delay.
Might be a delay. Oh, okay.
Well, I want to go ahead. Let me first of all run down the list of things that our guest today has accomplished. I know most of us on the Saturday, we are sitting down and we're trying to figure out what we want to do with our life and enjoy the weekend. But let me tell you what she's been doing for all this time. So we're talking to somebody who's been a TV host, a reporter, a producer, a writer, a public speaker. We're talking to the owner of Prosper Creative Group. We're talking about someone who has been an advocate for women and girls internationally. We're talking to somebody who is a maternal health expert. We're talking to somebody who is a social media giant. And we're talking to somebody who, most importantly, is a Pan-African. And so if for anybody who is looking into the show, if you have questions, concerns, if you are someone who just wants to get more information, take this time, make sure that you get your questions together. We have a comment section. If you shoot your question to us, we can get through your comments, relay them to Sister Prosper, and we will try to get answers to you as soon as we can work out some of the technical difficulties.
That's right. Yeah, so she have a few technical difficulties. So everyone, sometimes the internet connection is not as fast as what we have here. So that's what it is. But Ivy has also inspired a lot of people. There's a couple from Florida that moved to Ghana because of the inspiration they got from Ivy Prosper. And so she's inspired many in the diaspora. And also I saw the other day she had a movie star from Jamaica who she interviewed. And then not only people in the diaspora, but also for young women entrepreneurs. There was a young lady who had such a great idea for a business. She was able to, she raised funds for this young lady to, get a business off the ground. So there's someone who's inspired many in the diaspora and women's health. And she's such a great lady. We're just hoping the internet works with us this morning so we can have it back on.
Absolutely. And it's important for you guys to understand. So we know we have people who are loyal followers of the show. We do this show from several different places geographically, right? So we're doing this show from both coasts of the United States. And then when we have guests on, we're also doing this show live from wherever their destination is. And sometimes those signals don't always get along, right?
Yeah.
So we're trying to get the signals together, work through any technical issues. This person is phenomenal. And what we'll do, we can always add to, if our guest is fine with it, we can always add to our time to make sure that you all get the full value of what it is you came here to see. But speaking of notable people that Ivy has interviewed, there are two names in particular that I think a lot of people, at least stateside, are going to be familiar with. One person I think everybody in the world is going to be familiar with. So if you've ever heard of Leslie Jones of Saturday Night Live fame, she has interviewed Leslie Jones. If you've heard of Barry Jenkins, he's the director who made that movie Moonlight. Ivy has interviewed Barry Jenkins. Now, the person everybody in the world knows that she interviewed is Idris Elba. And I'm just putting it out there because I know there's going to be a list of people like, oh, I got questions for Idris. We don't have Idris. That's not what we're talking about. This is about Ivy and the breadth of experience that she is coming to this show with. She's had an opportunity to be in fashion. She's had an opportunity to be in TV. She's had an opportunity to host various events, to write, to produce. So literally, if you are a creative-minded person and you have questions about the industry, you have questions about the stereotypes of the industry, you have questions about how you will be perceived in the industry, this is the time to get your questions together, come through, and we'll try to make it work to the best of Ivy's abilities once we can get her squared away.
Okay, let me share her page so people can go and subscribe to her channel. She's a wealth of information. So let me do that right now. Jesse, can you see my screen?
I see it.
Yeah, so this is her page. So the first on top is one of the top interviews. What did the owner of One Africa have to say about Year of Return? Like I said, she was part of the team that planned the Year of Return. Mm-hmm. And then, these are some of her interviews with Jamaican actor Kivoy Burton, the one I was trying to remember, and other ones, Lexi Owusu-Boahin. So please go and subscribe to her page and get all this wealth of information.
Okay. And I think she just sent me a message saying that she's on.
Oh, okay, she's back now. I see her. So okay, we're gonna run back the interview again, the intro again. This is someone I have great respect for. Started following her YouTube channel about a year ago. Such a wonderful person. A friend of mine. Shout out to J Mens, recommended that I follow her since he knows I'm also a Pan-African. First of all, she's a Pan-African. She's passionate about helping young women with their businesses. And one time she raised funds for this young lady who had a 40-year plan. This just was like an 18-year-old. I was really taken aback, who had a 40-year plan. I mean, I didn't have a 40-year plan.
Yeah.
And then, so we'll let her get into all that. And then she's also She's also part of the team that planned the year of return. She's the team that's planning the beyond the return, which is 10 years after the year of return. Without much ado, I want to introduce the one and only Ivy Prosper.
Yay! How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, I want to apologize in advance if Fred and I faint while we're talking to you, because you are a celebrity to us. This is we were so happy that you decided to join us, and I've got a lot of questions. I know you're used to hosting things, but I've got a ton of questions for you, and I'm sure Fred does too. But we're trying to get over our inner fanboy, so
Yeah.
Oh, did we lose you?
So she's a little. I think she's frozen. Okay, so
see, I'm gonna shoot her a message here.
Yeah, that's fine. Okay. Oh, she's back.
There we go.
So I have to say that the internet is not the most stable right now.
Understandable.
Yeah.
Saturdays in the
Oh, I guess it feels
afternoon in Ghana, everybody's going to be online. People are home. So, I mean, it's already a ton more challenging.
Yeah.
Oh.
Okay.
Well,
you're back.
You're back?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
So we've already
I hope this
told the audience about the technical issues, and I think that's fine.
So that's one of the realities she's going to talk about, both sides of the story. So
keep happening.
Do you hear us?
Okay.
Okay. I guess she's back.
Hey, Avi, can you hear us? Yes, can you hear us?
I'm here. I only see one of you.
Uh-oh.
Okay, it's
Okay.
All right.
So she's gonna try to reconnect with a different device.
Okay, sure.
Okay.
Sure. All right. So I'm glad to say like I said, I'll let her get into some of the stuff, but I'm glad to say the lady she sponsored got her was able to come up with the funding for the young lady, and we're proud to say we help fund that here at Pan-Africana. So and then
Absolutely.
yeah. So she's she'll be back. She'll be back. We're praying this works out. Like she was saying, I mean, that happens here sometimes, right? Right, Jesse. When some days you have more high traffic, you can get some breaks in the service. So
absolutely. And some of this stuff you guys, it's the joy of live podcasting, right? So you never know what's going to happen. I've been on a number of Zoom calls and stuff since we started working from home.
Yeah.
All of a sudden the internet on a given Tuesday decides that it doesn't want to do right. But the show goes on. So I want to talk a little bit kind of about, until we get Ivy back, the impact of the year of return and beyond the return. For those of us who we saw the celebrities who were going out and we wanted to be a part of it. The year of the return, I think this was 2019, so they were marking 400 years since the original slave ships came into, on this side at least, Jamestown, Virginia. And what we saw in that celebration was some of the most beautiful, picturesque Blackness that you have ever seen in one space, right? We've got celebrities from both countries that are taking tours of things, that are introducing each other to stuff, that are partying together, eating together, breaking bread together, and kind of living the life that we really should have had, but for colonialization and slavery, kind of doing what we would have been doing anyway. Definitely, you know, for what it has done, at least on the American side, is it has inspired a lot of African Americans to, one, start retracing kind of their genetic makeup and find out who they are, where they came from, and kind of plan trips to get back and reconnect. On the other hand, it also has done a wonderful job of making Ghana kind of the flagship of where people want to start out to begin these journeys and reconnect. I see we got Ivy back. Ivy, can you hear me?
Can you hear me?
Yes,
I can hear you. Good.
Awesome. We've been celebrating and singing your praises, but I want to give people an opportunity to find out who the real Ivy Prosper is. So for those who may be unfamiliar, could you tell us a little bit about who you are and where you're from?
My name is Ivy Prosper, as you said. I was born in Ghana, but we left Ghana when I was not even 2 years old and moved to Canada. So I spent most of my life in Canada. I did live in the US for a short time. I lived in Detroit, 2007, 2008. Around that time, I was in Detroit. I love Detroit. So I have a soft spot for the city of Detroit as a result of my time. And living in Ghana, I've been here. I initially was living here 2011 to 2013. I went back to Canada, then came back again in 2016. So I've been in Ghana since 2016. And it really is about passion when it comes to being on the continent of Africa, the passion to help change the narrative of the continent, and also to bridge the gap and with Pan-Africanism, with understanding that we're all one people, and that, I mean, we're all one people that have been dispersed to different parts of the world. And so as a result, we all have different types of cultures. Someone from Jamaica will have a different culture than someone from, you know, St. Vincent, someone from Trinidad, someone from, you know, Louisiana will have a different way of living than someone from New York, you know? So we have similarities in being Black people, and we have our differences in the cultures that we have because of where we live. But at the end of the day, we're all African people, and I think it's important that we acknowledge and respect that, and we learn and grow from each other. So my work, I have a background in fashion as well as in radio and television broadcasting. So most of my work over the last decade has been in the media spaces. So writing, public speaking, reporting, TV hosting, and now doing work with Beyond the Return, previously Year of Return, as the social media manager. and then helping with events when events are happening, doing press releases, different things that I've been doing with Ghana Tourism Authority is who's above the campaign. So I work for Ghana Tourism Authority under the Year of Return and Beyond the Return campaigns.
Wow.
Yes, we were just talking about how wildly successful those campaigns were on a number of levels, not just successful from a business standpoint, but successful in spreading awareness to people, particularly folks stateside, about returning to Ghana and about celebrating Blackness in general.
Yeah, it's been great. It really has been great. And I think it exceeded everybody's expectations. Like it seriously did. People did not expect that there was going to be so much of a response from it as there was. We were really overwhelmed with the love that the campaign got and the way that people have responded in the way that they want to come to Ghana more than ever before, it seems. Yeah.
So Ivy, as we on Year of Return and Beyond the Return, can you talk a little bit about the 7 pillars of Beyond the Return?
Oh, the 7 pillars. Okay, so for people who don't know, because people might be watching and they don't have any idea, Beyond the Return is a follow-up to Year of Return. You may have said this already when I was off the stream, so I apologize if I'm repeating something.
That's fine.
But Beyond the Return is a 10-year initiative, and the theme of Beyond the Return is a decade of African Renaissance. And so the pillars that you mentioned are the foundation of the 10-year initiative, and they're all a direct response to the things that people in diaspora were giving feedback on after Year of Return. So basically, so the pillars are Experience Ghana, and the Experience Ghana pillar, and this is in no particular order that I'm saying these, and no hierarchy in the pillars. So Experience Ghana is focused on what Year of Return did, which was a lot of the tourism, the events that people attend. So that's Experience Ghana, tourism, events, the warmth of the people. And then the other pillar that has a lot of people interested is Invest in Ghana. The Invest in Ghana pillar is all about the diverse investment opportunities in the country and how people can find ways to invest in Ghana, whether it's actually being on the continent and doing a business here, or whether it's being afar and collaborating with someone, or simply investing in someone who is looking to do a business and somebody from abroad is supporting them from the diaspora. So there's so many different ways that people can invest in the country. So the Ghana Investment Promotion Center is partnering with us on that particular pillar and providing support with helping people learn about doing business in Ghana. Then there's the Diaspora Pathways to Ghana. And this one is one that a lot of people from the diaspora were always asking about, which is citizenship, residency, how can they work in Ghana? Or how can they go to school, education? Some people want to come and study. So the Diaspora Pathways, there is currently work being done in Parliament to try to pass a bill, which is called the Homeland Return Act, which was announced by the Director of Diaspora Affairs late last year. And also the former Minister of Tourism, Arts and Culture also had said it in one of her speeches that the Homeland Return Act is being worked on. And once it passes, it would be easier for people from the diaspora community to be able to get citizenship, residency, work permits, that kind of stuff. Because right now the process can be cumbersome and take some time. And so what they wanted to do was make it easier for people of African descent compared to other people. So that's one of the important pillars for a lot of people. Yeah. And then the other one is Celebrate Ghana. Now, Celebrate Ghana is about celebrating some of the traditional festivals and celebrating, creating sort of a national consciousness in the people. So people would come and they would go to events and different things happening in Greater Accra, excuse me, in Greater Accra. But then they'd be like, well, what about the traditional stuff? Because there's traditional festivals that happen around the country all year long. There's different things happening, in different regions. There's different cultural festivities that have meaning for each a cultural group, each traditional area, ethnic group. in Ghana. So Celebrate Ghana is about that aspect and providing more information for people to be able to attend some of those things. Then there's Brand Ghana. Brand Ghana is about branding the country, branding it in a way that people can associate Ghana for specific things. So for instance, like when people think about Paris, they think about the Eiffel Tower. When they think about, New York, they think about, skyscrapers. So there's different things that people associate with different places because they've branded themselves very well. So Brand Ghana is about working towards a way of branding Ghana in such a way that there are certain things that people think about every time they think of Ghana. So that's a work in progress as well. And then there's the pillar Give Back Ghana. Give Back Ghana is about giving back to the community. So there's a lot of people who came from the diaspora who were like, I love, what's happening here, but I want to be able to give back to some of the people in some of the more marginalized communities. And so some people, they would just give money, but some people wanted something that was more sustainable. So people are looking for ways to be able to do that. So the Give Back Ghana pillar is focused on that. So right now, one of the things that we're doing is a tree planting exercise to give back to the environment. So there's people who come and help to do the tree planting. Most recently, Queen Efwa, who's a holistic health expert and practitioner, came with a group of African Americans who are also into health and wellness, which includes Angela Rye, who's a political analyst, who goes on the Breakfast Show and does stuff on CNN as well. There was also Chef Lauren Vanderpool, who's a vegan celebrity chef. So there was different people who were with her, and they participated in a tree planting to give back to Ghana's environment. And then there's a group of men who are in a fraternity. I think it's the Omega Psi Phi's. They have been doing tree planting across.
Shout out to
not tree planting, boreholes. They've commissioned over 40 boreholes to give access to water in communities that didn't have access to water. And they started that during the year of return with 2 boreholes, and they've continued to do that to give back to the community. So those are a couple of examples of the Give Back Ghana pillar. And then the last one is promote African heritage, Pan-African heritage and innovation. So this one is also sort of part of tourism, but also part of, Pan-Africanism, part of showcasing Ghana in different ways that people don't know about. So for instance, everybody comes to Ghana, but I shouldn't say everybody, a lot of people come to Ghana and they'll go to Accra, see Kwame Nkrumah Museum. Then they'll go to Cape Coast to go and look at the slave dungeons. And then that's it. They don't think about other things that are across the country. So showcasing things like in the northern region, there's a place called the Golu Slave Defense Wall, which was a wall that people in the north built to protect themselves from being captured by the people who were trying to capture Africans. And that is an attraction that is still there, and people don't know because they stay in Accra and they stay in Cape Coast. So there's different places around the country that we want to highlight in the story of Africa and Pan-Africanism, and to show that people fought. There's people who fought. There's a lot of people who have resolved to saying that I've had people who say, well, you guys sold us anyway, so why should we care? And it's like, there are some people who were involved in helping to facilitate it, but there's a lot of people who fought against it. There was a chief in the northern region who, at one of our events during Year of Return, he came and spoke to a group of African Americans, and he was like, there's a story that's passed down in history in his village of the people who fought. And he's like, we fought, but it's hard to fight when their weapons are greater than what you have.
That's right.
And they're able to, do what it is they need to do. Because if they have guns and all you have are your hands, how are you fighting? So he really wanted them to know that there are people who fought, especially in the northern region, because a lot of them were taken from those areas or were taken from other countries and transported through and portaled through Ghana, which is why you find that there's some people who they're not necessarily as descendants of Ghana, but they may have been chatteled through, because Ghana had over 70% of the slave ports in West Africa. So a lot of people were chatteled through Ghana, but not necessarily from Ghana. But there were, yes, a lot who were also from Ghana as well. Yeah. So those are the 7 pillars.
So
That's
the last point you made was, it made me, it brought a smile to my face, because my dad is from the northern part of Ghana, so it made me really proud, from Nabrongo to be specific. Go, way to go!
Oh wow!
Yes.
Well, so this gives us a lot of stuff to talk about, both from your career as well as Ghana. But I want to start off small.
Yeah.
So I want to first find out from you, what inspired you to become a Pan-African?
I don't think there was any one thing that would have inspired me. I feel like my general upbringing contributed to it. So as I mentioned earlier, I was born in Ghana, but I was raised in Canada. I wasn't even a 2-year-old when we left. So I didn't have any formative years to have remembered. So anything I knew about Ghana was based on what my mom and dad would tell us, especially my mother. She had a tendency to talk more about Ghana than my father did. And I mean, it could also be because she stayed home with us for a number of years before she went to work. So she was with us most of the time while he was working. And she taught us about, being Africans, being Ghanaians, the food. She'll talk about the culture and stuff. And she also used to always talk about how much she respected African American people. She would always say that Black people in America are so amazing in the way that they're able to come together and fight and rally against things that are working against them, who are willing to fight for their freedoms. So we used to have to watch documentaries. My mom would make us watch documentaries. Like we watched PBS series that talked about, Black history. And she would order these were the tapes at the times of like VHS, DVDs.
Yeah.
Like she would order them from PBS, and then we would get these, tapes that we would have like a 7-part series that we have to watch. And
Wow.
so we learned a lot about the civil rights movement. And she always said to us that, you're Black, even you're African, but you're a Black person. And, you're going to suffer the same things that somebody who's an African American, who's a Black American person is going to suffer too. Because, at the end of the day, if I'm in a situation and there's a white racist who's around who's going to do racist things, they're not going to look and say, oh, is that person from Ghana? Oh, is that person from Kenya? Oh, is that person from, Texas? No, they just see a Black person, period.
Absolutely.
So my mom would always talk about that we may be from different places, but we're very much similar people. And so I think that a lot of the time that I spent, and the irony is I grew up in a place that was predominantly white. So I think she always wanted us to recognize our identity. And then in grade 6, when I was about 11, 12 years old, I had a teacher that was one of the most influential teachers in my life. That was the first time I had a Black teacher, Mr. George Bell. He walked in the room and I was just like, I have a Black teacher? Like, I was just like, wow. And he really did a lot to support, and he taught me a lot. He shared a lot of his personal experiences. He wanted to go into baseball, Major League Baseball, but with racism, and like he talked a lot about things that he experienced. We're not that far removed from a lot of the things that we read in history books. He was part of there was a Black hockey league in Canada. A lot of people don't know about this, but there was a Black hockey league in Canada. Yeah. And so with the city I grew up in, there's a city of St. Catharines, and St. Catharines actually has a church that is a historical monument because Harriet Tubman, when she was doing the Underground Railroad, went to that church and actually helped bring people there. And so the hockey team was called the St. Catharines Orioles, and they were a Black hockey team. And my teacher had family members who were part of that team. And so I was learning a lot from him. I'm so sad he passed away. May he rest in peace. I think it was in 2018. And so that, and then when I was in high school, the irony is I had a white teacher, 11th grade, grade 11, who gave me a book because I had finished all my assignments. I was in enriched English and I finished all my assignments, and he was like, okay, you need to do something else. I was like, I need something else. And then he brought me Chinua Achebe, No Longer at Ease.
Ah.
It was his book, and he was giving it to me because he said, you know, these are the kind of books that are not in the curriculum, but I think you would love this book and it'll be very impactful for you. And it was. That teacher was Mr. David Drago. And he changed my life by giving me that book. Like, as far as having a reference of an author from Africa, because up until that point, I only knew of Black authors in America, but I didn't really know about Black authors from the continent of Africa. So in reading his experiences and stuff in that book, I also ended up reading Things Fall Apart, and
Great book.
recognized, you know, the ways that we're similar. We're different, but we're similar. We have these experiences that tie us together as Black people. We have these conflicts that we deal with. And a lot of these things we deal with are because of the powers that be. You know, we're in a system that we're all navigating. And so we do have some similar experiences. But as far as Pan-Africanism goes, I think it was just a lifelong thing. Just throughout my life, I've just always seen us as being one people, even though we may have differences being from different places. We are, you know, one people. I think, you know, of my siblings, I feel like I was the most likely person who would likely live in Ghana. And the irony was, Ghana was never on my radar to move here before.
Wow.
My dreams were always, I always dreamed of moving to New York City. New York City is where I wanted to be. So, you know, a series of life events and happenstance, and here I am in Ghana, and serving a purpose, a greater purpose, being here on the continent. So.
Wow. I'm learning so much already. Like, learning so much. But let's go through the comments. You're getting a lot of comments here. Lydell says, fascinating discussion. This sister has accomplished so much. And then Michael from Nigeria, a brother from Nigeria, #1 supporter. He says, yes, there are a lot of stories about some African kings who vehemently resisted slave trade. In South Nigeria, there's a story of Jaja of Opobo, who was sent on exile by the colonial masters for his stance against slave trade. And then Stephanie.
Wow, very interesting.
Yeah.
Stephanie
says, your mama was amazing. Love it.
Absolutely.
And then if you want to get the book, this is the book Ivy is talking about, No Longer at Ease. That's the Amazon link. You can click on and purchase a copy for yourself. Learn from a great writer, Achebe, who is of blessed memory. He passed a number of years ago.
Yeah.
So I want to ask this, because I know New York City has to have this tie-in to your interest in fashion, I'm sure. So for someone who says, oh, I want to be in the fashion industry, how did you make those transitions to where you are now?
Well, for New York, I think that it was the first place that I went that I felt like I fit in. So the first time I was in New York City, I was 14 or 15 years old. And so I was like, wow, I was just like, this place is amazing. I felt like I fit in. And I'm 6'1", by the way, and I've been this height since I was 15 years old. So finding clothes at this height as a woman, especially at that time, was not easy. So New York City was a place I could go and I could find clothes. I was like, oh my gosh, there's clothes for tall people. There's shoes for tall people with big feet. and and it was also a place that, you know, nobody found it odd that I was tall, but everywhere else I would go, it was always a topic of discussion. But New York was a place that nobody really, you know, bothered me about that. But yeah, because of the fashion industry, because knowing in the modeling industry, because I was modeling, pursuing modeling, that you know, New York, London, Paris, Milan, like those are the places that you go if you really want to make it. And in Canada, you're very limited with how far you can go or how far you can earn money, because you can be a successful model living in Canada, but the earning potential is far lower than it is in America. So a lot of people aspire to go to New York. Also because when you're modeling and you work with bigger known designers, your potential to earn more and get more jobs is a lot higher. So anyway, I was pursuing a career as a model. And that was a large part of wanting to be in New York. Also, I ended up studying fashion design, and that's the place that you go when you want to, you know, have your runway shows and you know, showcase your work. And so it's like the hot spot, the melting pot of so much culture, so much richness, access to textiles and so many different things in the fashion district. So yeah, so I was going to New York regularly. Like from 15 on, I was going to New York regularly. I actually grew up 15 minutes from the New York State border. St. Catharines is beside Niagara Falls. And Niagara Falls, New York is right across the bridge. Yeah, so that's actually where I grew up. I eventually moved to Toronto when I finished high school, went there for university and stayed there for a while. But my foundational years growing up were close to the US border. So we were driving back and forth all the time to New York State because it was just right there. But New York City was about an 8-hour drive or a flight. We would drive to Buffalo. You can drive to Buffalo and then fly from Buffalo for like 45 minutes. And then you're in New York. So, so with fashion, I ended up working in fashion for a bit. I ended up working in retail footwear for quite some time. I did do a collection of clothing that I did a runway show of my fashion line in New York. But getting into the fashion business, I always advise young people now that it is a capital intensive business if you want to get into it. And you can lose a lot of money. So you got to plan well. And I know I didn't plan the best at the time that I did it. I was just really gung-ho and excited and didn't plan very well. So I ended up working in footwear for like maybe 8 years or something. Footwear, and I ended up working as an assistant buyer in clothing, women's clothing, and it was a company that does tall women's clothing, ironically, but it was a good experience. And it was after my father passed away that I started thinking about different things that I wanted to do with my life. And so the idea of pursuing radio and television broadcasting was the next direction I decided to take. And it's that path that ended up leading me to end up eventually coming into Ghana a few years later when I transitioned to the media path.
That's awesome. So was there like a certain experience in TV that happened in New York that made you say, oh, this is what I want to do? Or was it just a developing interest?
No. Yeah, no. In New York, I didn't do any TV work. I went and did a lot of audition after audition after audition, and nobody hiring me. People telling me I was too fat all the time in that industry. It's really like, they're like, your hips are too wide, your thighs are too big. It was always something. So with New York, I was pursuing it with modeling, and it didn't pan out the way I had hoped. Things are different now. I know they're trying to embrace more curvy figures compared to, but the industry relatively is still very much the same as it was back then. But I did some TV stuff, film and TV stuff when I was in Toronto, because when you're in modeling, the modeling industry is more rejection than anything. I was just talking to a friend yesterday on the phone about it, and most of the time you're going to auditions and you're not getting the job. So your agent makes money when you make money. So if you're not making money, they're not making money. So what ends up happening is a lot of agencies send their models for acting auditions. That's why you end up seeing models in TV shows and movies and stuff, because they end up sending you for acting auditions, because acting auditions, sometimes they just want someone in the background who looks good. It might be a scene where you're supposed to be a model on some guy's arm and you're just standing there looking good. And or you might have a part with lines. So I was going to auditions, and then I was getting a lot of background roles. So background basically are extras. And so you're just in the background. So like I was in the background of a lot of productions that were filmed in Toronto. So there's a lot of TV shows and movies. A lot of people don't realize a lot of scenes are filmed in Canada, and it's supposed to be New York, but it's filmed in Canada. So like
Really?
the establishing shots. Yeah, like you know the series Suits?
Yep.
Suits
Yeah,
is filmed
yeah.
in Canada, in Toronto.
Wow.
Toronto. Yes. So the scenes where they show like, you know, the skyline and all that, of course, that's New York. But once they're on the ground and they're in the office, all that stuff, filmed in Toronto. Like they walk around places that I recognize, some of the cafes they're in. You're like, oh yeah, that's King Street. Oh, that's Adelaide Street. Oh, that's, so we recognize these places when we watch these shows. Or movies. There's a lot of stuff filmed in Canada, in Toronto area and in Vancouver on the West Coast. So LA productions tend to go to the West Coast of Canada. New York productions tend to go to the east side of Canada, like Toronto, because it's cheaper. The exchange rate of the US to Canadian dollar. And also the Canadian government gives tax breaks to people when they film in Canada and hire Canadian production teams. So I was doing a lot of background stuff. One of the fun things I did was, and this will age me because most people don't know my age. One of the fun things I did was I worked on Dave Chappelle's Half Baked.
I love that movie.
Have you heard of Half Baked?
Yes, I love that movie.
So that was a case of a model-looking person audition. So it was me and one other girl who were standing there, and they were trying to decide which one they were going to use for a speaking role. I didn't get the speaking role, she did, and I ended up being just in the background in the club scene. Yeah.
Wow.
Okay, is this the club scene?
That was fun. That was when he's handing out the joints in the club.
Yes. I think there was a Samson music video where he's pretending
I'm dancing
to be
in the back.
Okay.
I know where I am. I am, but most people can't tell. I was so young. Oh my gosh. But yeah, that was fun because Dave himself was a lot of fun. He was one of the most interesting people I've ever met and I've ever worked with. He was hilarious. He was naturally funny. Like there was a point where he was always just having conversation. He would just say stuff and you're laughing so hard. It got to the point my stomach was hurting me. I was like, I feel like I've been doing ab crunches all day. This is so funny. But yeah, so being on set and seeing all the things happening and just how things were coming together, I always found it fascinating. So it was always in the back of my mind. So when my father was sick, actually before he was sick, was it before? No, it was after he was already, my father was diagnosed with cancer, and the reality of life was very, in our faces. So I actually started volunteering at a local TV station just to see, is this something I would actually want to do? And through the volunteering I was doing, I was going out reporting on stories and stuff. And I was like, I enjoyed it, but I still hadn't quit my job. It was after my dad died that I quit my job to pursue that career. And that's what took me to Detroit. I ended up going back to school to study radio and television broadcasting. Wow. And did an internship at WDIV Local 4 in Detroit, which was a great internship. It was more than an internship. It was like I was working. I absolutely loved the experience. It was one of the best experiences I've had, and it taught me a lot about the news industry. News industry is business like anything else, is what I learned.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So Ivy, you did mention Dave Chappelle. Since we're on Dave Chappelle, could you talk a little bit? You wrote an article on the return. Could you talk a little bit
Yeah.
about that? About him
Yeah,
being
it was an interview he did. Yeah, it was an interview he did with Naomi Campbell. So he did an interview with Naomi Campbell. So I wrote an article based on what he said in the interview, which basically he was saying that after hearing Stevie Wonder recently saying that he wants to move to Ghana, he was saying he wanted to come as well. But he also clarified and said that, you know, Stevie has been saying this for so many years, and Stevie Wonder has said before that he wanted to move to Ghana. I think it was like in the 70s and in the 80s and the 90s. And apparently a real estate person told me that Stevie does have property in Ghana. He has land and has built something, apparently. I haven't seen it personally. But Dave said that when Stevie Wonder was talking about that he wanted to be somewhere that he was more respected and that he was doing this for his grandchildren, that it really made him feel like it was different this time around than the last times he has said he's coming. So he said he wants to come. And even if he rents a place for a bit to come and see Ghana. And then he said he might even build a comedy club because there's no comedy club here. He's been in communication with an architect here who is very highly regarded, and David Ajay. And so he's been working with him, so that they're probably working on something. And so we look forward to seeing what it is.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, if he needs investors, I will invest in the comedy club any day of the week.
That's our resident comedian on the show.
Yes. So you've had so many great experiences, and just your continuous evolution. I'm curious now. I know that you talked a little bit about how the fashion industry can be very. I don't know what the word for it is. I'm guessing the people who were doing the rejections of you didn't look like us. I'm assuming.
Most of the time.
Most of the time. So I'm wondering, what do you think is the impact of those industry standards on how women in general are made to feel? Because I know we do a lot of discussion about how the industry tries to put out there that there's a beauty standard, and that beauty standard is almost never anyone who's Black, right? It's anything but Black. And we have seen a growing push for people to try to shift that paradigm. But I'm wondering, for you, as someone who's actually out here doing it, what was the impact of that emotion, or of those rejections? Is something that you just had to have a thick skin about and keep in the back of your mind you want to change? Or is this something that you said, I'm changing it as soon as I get a minute to do it?
Well, I think that that's a great question you just asked. And it's really something that did affect me. And I think any young girl who gets into the modeling industry has to be prepared for. And it was actually the catalyst of what led me to go into motivational speaking, but I'll get to that in a moment. So basically, the first time I had someone tell me that I needed to lose weight, I was 13 years old. So I was 13, I was about 5'10", and they took the measuring tape, they measure around your hips, your waist, your bust to check your size. And at that time I was told I needed to lose 2 inches off my hips. And they gave me like this list of things that you can do to eat and exercise and trim down. And I was just like, what? And my mom was like, what? Because she's like, everybody's saying that I was so skinny back then.
Yes.
That it's so weird that someone's saying for me to lose weight. Basically, the industry wanted people to be like a walking coat hanger. And it's tough on you mentally, because you start to hear it repeatedly during your formative years as a teenager. You're constantly being told you're perfect, but this is wrong. You're perfect, but that is wrong. So you constantly have to battle thinking highly of yourself, because everyone around you is telling you what your faults are. I'll never forget a photo shoot I was doing with a designer in Toronto I was wearing a white skirt, and the designer was like, why did you hire this girl? Her hips are so big. I'm trying to take pictures. And it was just like, ugh. So anyway, it affected my self-esteem, definitely. And because of that, when I did leave the industry at that time in my 20s, I had made a decision when I was working in footwear. I had overheard a woman and her daughter talking, and the way they were talking was exactly the direct result of seeing images in media of what they feel they should look like. And so I ended up starting to work with some organizations doing public speaking on self-esteem and positive body image. So I've traveled around in different schools in Canada and with different nonprofit organizations talking about self-esteem, positive body image for young women and girls. So it is something that I mean, I still think about it today sometimes, every so often. You know, any woman, you put on a dress, you're like, oh, does this look right? Does that look right? And then you gotta be like, no, I can't think of what those standards have told me. I've got to think about, you know, me. Yeah.
Right. And I'm sure that's industry stuff too, because I can almost guarantee that once you got to Detroit, the reception is very different.
Detroit's completely different. It's completely different. I actually ended up doing a runway fashion show in Detroit, and it wasn't like I was looking for it. It was literally, I was there to actually interview some people, and then all of a sudden one designer was like, a model didn't show up. Can you model for me? Can you model for me? And then next thing I knew, I was modeling in the show because a model didn't show up. But yeah, Detroit is definitely a different environment than other places for sure. Yeah.
So is that a scene on your YouTube channel where one of the scenes you have you're walking down you're modeling with like a suit on?
No, the footage from Detroit, I don't even know where that footage is.
Oh, okay.
So we've got internet scavengers in our,
on our
audience.
I don't even know where that footage is.
If somebody can find that and give it to us, we can share.
So we have Michael making a comment. Wisdom says hi. Wisdom.
Hello, Wisdom.
Yeah. And then Michael says, on a lighter note, what do you think about the cost of living in Ghana and let's say in Canada? Do you think going back to Africa will be more rewarding for our brothers and sisters in the diaspora?
I think the cost of living in Ghana depends on where you live. If you choose to live in Accra, you are going to spend a lot of money in rent. Rent is expensive in the city of Accra. I don't know why it's so expensive, but I think a lot of places are overpriced. But that's the reality if you choose to live in the city of Accra. It's just like somebody choosing to live in New York or choosing to live in LA. It's the most expensive place in the country to live. So there are a lot of people from the diaspora who come and eventually end up moving outside of Accra. There's a community of African Americans who live in Cape Coast. Rent is a lot cheaper in Cape Coast than it is in Accra. I know someone who was in Accra paying like a couple $1,000s a month on rent for a home for their entire family, so that, you know, it's them and their kids. And then now they're in the central region and their rent is like, I think it's like a third of what they were paying in Accra for the same kind of space. So it's a good idea to think about how much you want to spend, what kind of lifestyle you want to have, because also being in Accra, you have more access to socializing, events, more cultural festivities, more access to diasporan communities when they come on visits rather than living. So depends on what it is you're looking for. And also different industries, depending on the industry you work in, Accra may be where you have to be. You may not be able to get the kind of work you want if you go to a rural area or a smaller city. So think about that as well. Because a lot of companies, international companies, when they set up shop in Ghana, come to Accra. They'll have, you know, like you have companies, you know, multinationals, their head office for Ghana will be in Accra versus other parts of the country. So you might end up in those situations where you don't really have a choice, but you have to be, I'll say it's important to find someone local to help you with finding a place to rent. Because unfortunately, some of these landlords will quote you a foreign price and a local price. So if a local person goes for you to check it out, they'll get the local price and, you know, it'll save you a lot of money. Sad but true, it happens. So yeah, Canada depends on where you live as well. If you live in Toronto, downtown Toronto, you're going to be paying a lot of rent. If you live in downtown Vancouver, Toronto and Vancouver are the most expensive places to live in Canada. So you'll be paying an astronomical amount of rent. Sometimes people are paying half their salary in rent. So, and here too in Ghana, some people pay half their salary to their rent. So think about what you want to do, what kind of industry you want to be in. Because so there's people who live great lifestyles living in the north of Ghana. Like, you know, if you're in the timber industry, then you should be in the north because that's where you're getting access to the things that you need for the business you're doing, you know. If you're in the shea butter industry, you may want to be living in the north as well. Although there's a lot of people who live in Accra, then they'll travel to the north for their shea butter business. But then there's people who choose to live in the north to do their shea butter business because that's where the majority of the shea nuts are available for you to work with. And then to the other part of her question, do I think Michael's question, do you think going back to Africa would be more rewarding for our brothers and sisters in the diaspora? I think it all depends on the person and what it is that their vision, what their mission, what their purpose is. Because somebody may have the purpose of being on the continent in order to feel that sense of peace and in order to make that change. And then there are some people that because they've had so many generations not being on the continent, they don't necessarily want to live on the continent, but they'll come and visit. Those might be the people who can make an impact remotely versus actually being here. Because I know of people who are, you know, they'll invest in. So for instance, there's a woman who has a farming company that people can invest in different farmers. You could be living in, you know, somewhere in Pennsylvania and you decide, you know what, I want to help my brothers and sisters in Africa. So I'll invest in this farming community. And then I know the farmers are being taken care of and being able to do what they do with the investment that you're making. And then she also gives return on your investment. So people, it depends on your personality and what you think is best for you. But I do think that the concept of Pan-Africanism, of still working together, even when you're apart, is still a key part of the puzzle of getting things done. Because sometimes you need to be in the other person's territory to know what's going on so that you're behind the scenes to be like, hey, they're trying to make a chess move here. So I got to work on doing this so I can support my brothers and sisters on the other side.
Absolutely.
You know?
Absolutely.
That's right.
Well, let me ask you this. Since you say it's kind of specific to the industry that people want to be in, for somebody who's not from Ghana, what are the major industries in Accra as opposed to the coast?
So like if you are looking to be like how Twitter has announced that they're going to have headquarters in Ghana now, but they're doing everything remotely now because of COVID, but they actually will be opening a physical office in Accra. So a lot of tech companies, oil and gas companies open their offices in Accra versus being in other remote communities. Whereas there's a pharmaceutical company, and I can't remember the name of it, that has their offices in, I believe, the Brongahafo region of Ghana. And they're from Canada, and they have offices in that area. So it all depends. So yeah, and then if you're in agriculture, you're not going to necessarily be in Accra. You may be in the eastern region. You may be in the Volta region. You know, you may be in the north, depending on what it is that you're farming. You're not necessarily in Accra. So a lot of agriculture won't necessarily be in Accra. A lot of tech and oil and gas businesses will tend to be in the city. And also people who are in fashion, you can choose what you want to do. Like there's a lot of people in fashion who choose to be in Accra because they feel like they want to be accessible not only to local people shopping, but also to foreigners who come. And a lot of foreigners tend to come to Accra when they do come to the country. But there are some fashion people who choose to be in, you know, places. They might be in Kumasi. Maybe they're using mostly kente woven fabric, so they want to be somewhere where there's more access to it directly from the source. Because once the kente leaves, you know, the Ashanti region or the Volta region where it's also made, and comes to Accra, there's an added cost added onto the textile versus getting it from the source. So people need to spend time researching what it is they want to do and figure out, where they would end up being when they come.
Absolutely.
All
Thanks for
right.
that.
So Ivy, I just put up your book, which I read a few months ago, in your guide to Ghana. So Ivy is also an
Thank
author.
you.
Yes. So if you can purchase it with that link right there, and supporting our sister
Thank
Ivy.
you. Thank you for sharing.
You're welcome. So this is just wanted to show people the link. So this is it. Your essential guide on moving to Ghana with bonus resource guide. It's such a great resource. It talks about the positives, the not so positives, and what you should consider before moving or visiting certain industries that you could invest in or work in and all that. So
Yeah, I think I'm overdue to do another one, because that was 2019 when I did that one.
I think I asked you about that, and you said you're considering it.
Yeah. I keep getting distracted by so much other work that gets put on my plate.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Ivy, can you talk about the young lady? I've been meaning to ask you about the young lady who I was talking about in the intro, who we supported to get herself a laptop. I forgot her
Eunice.
name.
Yes.
Eunice.
She's an amazing young woman, and she's an example of part of purpose, being in Ghana, being on the continent. Because trust me, it's not easy. There's days when I feel like, man, I should just pack up and go back to Canada, because the infrastructure is easier than the infrastructure here sometimes. But then I always have to think of the greater purpose, and young people like that are part of it. So I met her and was very compelled by the fact that she had made a business plan for 40-year business plan of what she wanted to do with her business. And I just couldn't believe it. And just the zest and the enthusiasm that she had, and that fact that she was doing whatever she had, whatever she could do with the tools she had, which were very minimal, including borrowing her father's phone. I didn't realize she didn't even have a phone. She was borrowing her dad's phone to use. So the money raised, so I went onto my YouTube channel, said I was raising money for this young woman, and the money was raised more than what was asked for. And so what I did was got her the laptop, got her a phone, as well as the extra money to go to her. And then I connected her with some business people here in Ghana that she could learn from. And so she started having some weekly sessions with an entrepreneur here in Ghana, who's teaching her the ropes about doing business and things to look for, presentation, that kind of stuff. And then I got her a meeting with the Ghana Investment Promotion Center to go and learn a little bit about, how to present her stuff. And so she's going to school. She's going to university. And I see that her vision it will come to fruition. It's like one day at a time. Like the seeds have been sown and planted, and she's being able to do things that she wouldn't have been able to do without some of the tools that she now has. And so that's one of the things that for me is important being in Ghana, because these little interactions that I have with people, I try to maximize it as much as possible. And it doesn't have to be that I'm doing fundraising like how I did with this young woman. It could be anything. So for instance, I had an Uber driver who, when I got in the car, we talked briefly, and then he said, "Oh, madame, I'm looking for a job." And I was like, "But you have a job, you're driving Uber." And I said, as a matter of fact, you should look at Uber as being an entrepreneur, because you're driving the car, you're taking people around, and the more you drive, the more you make. And then he was like, "Oh, but he studied accounting and that's what he wants. He wants to get a job in accounting." And I was like, you have the perfect position right now if you're talking about accounting. I said, you are driving an Uber. And in Ghana, people who are using Ubers tend to be people who have more access financially than people who aren't taking Ubers, because There's the trotro system, which are the vans that they overload people in, and the fare to get in a trotro is far cheaper than to be taking Uber everywhere. So I said to him, a lot of people who will be getting your Uber, you might have business people, you have people who need an accountant. I said, print some business cards saying you're
That's
an
right.
accountant. I said, make a web page that just shows, your name, what you do. And if you can't afford to build a business, a page, I said, Facebook, you can do a free business page on Facebook if you can't afford to do a website. And when you do that, and people come in your car, when they're leaving, you give them a business card. You say, oh, by the way, and it's not that you're forcing them. You're just saying, by the way, I'm also an accountant. If you need an accountant, here's my card. That's it. And then I said, even if you give out your card 100 times, and if 5 people called you out of 100 times, that's 5 people. You do a great job for them. Then they'll refer you to someone else and someone else and someone else. Next thing you know, you can leave your driving of Uber and just do your accounting. And he was like, oh, I never thought about that.
Yeah.
So for me, the interactions, because sometimes in Ghana, what I find is a lot of young people don't always think outside the box. And I don't fault them for it, because it's the school system teaches them memorization.
Preach.
The school system teaches memorization rather than, and being inquisitive and exploring your mind. So a lot of people who go to the private schools that have high tuition are the ones who get more access to that inquisitive thinking. But the people who are going to the government schools are the majority of the young people in the country. And they're not getting that. They're getting the memorize. So people will memorize everything for an exam, get it perfect, but then they don't know how to apply it. They don't understand what they just memorized it. And then because of, I didn't go to school in Ghana, but, things my parents would tell me about, that it was the whole thing of don't speak to the teacher unless they speak to you. And, if you challenge the teacher, they look at you like, oh, who are you? I'm the teacher. I'm the one that's teaching you. So then you learn early in life, okay, I shouldn't speak because the teacher knows everything. But a lot of times the teacher may be wrong. And in Canada growing up, we were allowed to put up your hand, you challenge the teacher, you tell them, well, actually, I read this somewhere. And the teacher will be like, oh, where did you read it? Tell them where you read it, then you have the discussion about it and find out who's right. And it's not that you're telling the teacher they're not smart. It's just that you're showing that you saw it somewhere else, and now you're having this dialogue, and you learn to debate, you learn to have conversation, you learn to open your mind. So interactions that I have with young people is also part of the purpose for me, because when you change one person's thinking, then it helps them with talking to someone else, and so on and so on.
See, I feel like I can't even be in this conversation. I got an American education, so it's worksheets.
Worksheets?
Worksheets, yeah.
Oh, you mean those multiple choice, the ones with the bubble? And
the teacher doesn't want to teach you. They just give you the worksheet. Yeah, and Canada, I have an affinity to Canada. I went to Canada once, to Niagara Falls. And when I was at Niagara Falls, my family was there. We were having a good time. I came downstairs and there was like a makeshift kind of, not a hospital, but like a clinic in the hotel. So I went in there and I'm just having a conversation with the doctor that's there. And I say, why are you in the hotel? And he was like, well, in case somebody gets hurt, you can come to the clinic. And I was like, huh? And the concept just blew my mind. And I was like, so anybody can come in here? Like anybody can just come and get healthcare treatment? You're not going to ask about insurance, whatever. It's like, no, just come in. And I was like, wow, the concept of this blows my mind as an American who dodges the hospital and the doctors, because even a checkup is going to be an expensive bill, right?
Yeah. It's one of the things I actually miss about Canada, because Ghana has a system very much like America, people getting insurance, payment for your treatment. There is a national scheme that people show a card and they have a reduced rate, but they're still paying.
Okay.
Yeah, but in Canada, if I feel sick, you just like, oh, I don't feel good, and you go to the doctor. Oh, I'm not feeling well. Oh, my foot. Oh, this, and people are like going for the littlest things.
Yeah, that's why we sneak across the border and we go get checked out by the Canadians.
Yeah, there's some people here in San Diego who go across the border to have their teeth checked in Mexico, and the insurance works over there. So that happened.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, that's interesting. I didn't.
So that the bold by me, that's my wife, Gertrude. She said the school system, and then she says, just learn and get a job. Yeah, that narrative, I believe, has to change. That it's not just learning, and I think it's almost everywhere. Go to school, get a job with good benefits, and you'll be okay. While there's nothing wrong with that, I think the narrative also has to be to encourage entrepreneurship and
absolutely,
like like what the practical example you give the brother and the Uber driver is really practical, that you can use Uber as a marketing tool to market yourself and do good for yourself.
Yeah.
I just like hearing people be creative about how they get to their place in life, because we're talking to Ivy, and she's taking us basically around a whole bunch of different things that she was successful in. That I'm sure it wasn't the plan. If she wrote a business plan when she first started, I'm sure these things weren't like it was like, oh, let me maximize myself here, then I'm gonna go here, maximize myself here, and then continue opening doors for the rest of us so that we can see how it's done. We were telling people before we got connected with you, we said, there was somebody that you interviewed that everybody in the world knows, and he goes by the name of Idris Elba. So I was like, yeah, you don't just get to Idris Elba. You don't just like say, okay, well, my career pathway is that I'm gonna plot out this course so that I can be the person designated for this interview. And so I'm thankful that you've had an opportunity to talk to us today and tell us about your journey. I've been a big fan as well, so we've been following you. And Fred and I laugh and kiki offline about all the videos and stuff that you post. So we are happy to have you on.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, Ivy, great job coming to us. In spite of the earlier technical difficulties, it still worked out, and finally got this day. I remember when I first started watching you, and when you interviewed someone in Asebu, where the chief has made it free for
the land.
The land. Yeah. So Jesse, if you want some land in Asebu, you can go there and get it for free.
I'm coming. I'm doing my visit. My visit is back on. I'm halfway vaccinated, so I'm coming.
So if you wanna reach out to Ivy, she's I think her IG is at Ivy Prosper.
Ivy Prosper. Yeah. Everything is Ivy Prosper everywhere.
Everything is Ivy Prosper she has a Facebook page, on a YouTube channel, and then I'm gonna let our resident attorney give a disclaimer.
Okay, y'all hear me say this?
What's the disclaimer?
You hear me say this every week, but I'm gonna say it once again. Now, she is giving you contact information, her handles for social media. This is not the time for you to pull up like LeBron from half court and start shooting shots and sending all kinds of inappropriate stuff. It is not for that. This is for if you have questions for Ivy, or if you have professional stuff, particularly if you want to buy the book, anything like that, reaching out to her for something professional. This is not for you to be sending all kinds of
Thank you for saying that. Being a woman on social media, I tell you, some of the messages that come through, like when I talk to some of my other female friends, they're just like, whoa.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And sometimes I end up fighting people when I'm watching a live YouTube. I end up fighting the people on there because some of the inappropriate things that I said, and it can be pretty bad. Yeah. But so if you wanna this great content, subscribe to our channel, like us on Facebook, the Pan-Africana presents Afriscope, and follow us on IG at the Pan-Africana Show, and you get all this great content from great people like Ivy Prosper.
Yeah,
I have to commend you guys for what you're doing. It's really great because there's definitely a need. People want more of this kind of content. I know some people feel like the market's being saturated by this type of content, but it's not by any means. Everybody has a part of the story to tell from their own perspective. So I think it's great that you guys are doing this. You're connecting with the diaspora communities. You're part of building the bridge to Africa. So thank you for having me today. It's a really, when I went through your content and when you sent me the message, I was like, oh yeah, this is something I don't mind doing. I just had to check my schedule and stuff and see what worked before I gave a solid yes.
Okay, thanks. It was an honor to have you. And our number one fan, again, Michael says, thank you, Ivory Prosper, for sharing your wealth of experience with us. By the way, I love the inscriptions on your shirt. Can you see them? Made in Africa.
Made in Africa. That's right.
My sister gave this to me, actually.
Oh, Ricky?
Yes. No, my sister Isabel. I have two sisters. Two sisters. Isabel. Yeah, Isabel and Ricky.
Okay.
And a brother who's quite silent most of the time.
Oh yeah, you have four. There was four of you in that picture.
Yeah, there's four of us.
All right, thanks for joining us.
Born in Ghana.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm planning this trip, so I don't know how this is going to work. But once I get there, my plan is for everybody that we've had on the show from Ghana. I've got to work in how we would get together, or how I'll meet you off for lunch or something. So
that would be good.
I don't know how often I'm gonna get back. I'm putting all my investment in going. I don't know how often I'm gonna be able to return. So we're gonna try to see how many I can see while I'm there. But I'm planning.
It's possible.
Yeah, I'm planning. I got my Will, Fred. I was talking to Will, so we're trying to plan something out for early 2022. See if we can get this trip back on.
That's realistic. That's realistic.
Yeah, we'll probably capture you and not let you go. Jesse.
That's all right. As long as there's food, I'll be happy. You know.
Oh wait, before we go, I have a graduate with Ivy. Before we go, with my favorite foods. So.
Yes.
Okay, I'm gonna tell about
your favorite food. Your favorite food is something I don't like. I'm sure. Kenke.
Well. To make it to make it lighter, my wife doesn't like kenke either, so I don't get. Either.
How do you manage? Married to someone who doesn't like kenke.
It's a problem. I even learned how to make it. My aunt even taught me how to make it, and the one we have here in San Diego is not that great. So sometimes people ship it out.
Okay. If you were on the East Coast, you would get better ones, I'm sure, because New York, in like the Bronx, where a lot of Ghanaians are, Virginia, a lot of Ghanaians, I'm sure you would get some more authentic ones there than San Diego.
Yeah, that's true. Exactly. So can you tell that's Jesse's favorite topic.
Yes.
Can you tell about some of the cuisines your favorite? I know it's not jollof rice people make so much noise about.
Yeah, no. Yeah, jollof is not one of my favorites. I know that people think that I'm crazy. Some people say that they're like, what do you mean? What are you saying? There's a dish called wache, which I personally think is better than jollof. That's my opinion.
Me too.
Wache is actually a northerner dish that's been very much adopted in the southern part of Ghana. Did you know that? I can't hear him.
Oh, Fred, you're on mute.
Oh, yeah. I do know that. Yeah, and one time, my mother-in-law did say that my son likes it because his heritage is from the north. Because of course his grandfather. So she was teasing me that way. Yeah.
What is wache?
For me,
what am I missing?
so I love wache. I also like so it's a rice that's cooked. It looks brown with beans in it, and it's cooked in sorghum leaves. So sorghum leaves are a plant that grows in Ghana. And they use red beans, they use white beans with it. And the white beans end up turning brown in the process of cooking. It looks like Jamaican rice and peas.
Okay.
But it's not Jamaican rice and peas. Yeah, but it looks like that. I also like red, which is the red beans with the fried plantain. That's one of my favorites too. I love kelewele, which is plantain that's been diced up into small pieces and seasoned with spices. I love contomre, or Ewes call it palava sauce. So it's a green, it looks like a spinach stew, but it's made using I think contomre leaves, which grow in Ghana. So when I was growing up in Canada, and people I know in the US, they would make it with spinach because contomre leaves were not in Canada and the US at the time. I don't know if the grocery stores now sell it, but the alternative we use would be spinach over there. But here they actually use the contomre green leaf. It's really good. And I also like, from the north, tozafi. Tozafi is lighter than fufu. Fufu is heavy. Tozafi is lighter than fufu. And I like the tozafi with the green soup. There's a green soup. It's made out of blended greens. I like that. And I like apompromsa. I hope I'm saying that right.
Apompromsa.
Yes. Yeah, so those are some of the dishes that I really like in Ghanaian food. And el mutuo, which are the rice balls with peanut soup.
With peanut soup, yeah. Cool.
I write these things down so I can research. That's
yeah, with fufu is one of Ghana's most popular dishes. But it's not one of my top choices for me personally, but it's the most top food across the country.
That's right. Well, that was a picture I shared with the kelewele when Ivy talked about kelewele. That's from my website, my blog. I have a blog on Simple African Meals, so you can go and check out some of these dishes. Ivy.
Oh, send me the link. Send me the link of your blog into my inbox.
Sure. I'll do that. Yeah. Cool. So thanks again for joining us this Saturday. Thank you for taking the time off to join us. Ivy, we're going to hold that backstage for a few minutes. But please join us again every Saturday, 9:30 a.m. on the West Coast, 12:30 p.m. on the East Coast, 4:30 p.m. GMT. And I think the last one will be probably Nigerian time, which is 5:30 p.m. Nigerian time. Yeah. So have a blessed Saturday. The day is just starting for us here on the West Coast.
Yes.
And it's ending for Ivy back in Ghana.
Yeah.
Right. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.